Good evening and welcome to the program, The Desk on Global Television. My name is Anthony Momodu. Welcome to today's edition as we look at issues making the rounds in Nigeria and across the globe. On today's edition, as we look forward to June 12th, which is Democracy Day in Nigeria, we'll be looking at some very interesting talking points aside the June 12th Democracy Day as we explain Nigeria's journey, 25 years of journey in democracy, how well we have done as a nation and as a people. All right, just to let you know, we'll be looking at the presidency as a reps proposed restitutional 6-year single term. That's one of the top stories making the rounds, where a bill seeking a single term of 6 years for president and state governors was brought on Monday by 35 members of the House of Representatives. The bill also canvasses the rotation of the presidency among the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The 35 legislators, under the auspices of the reformed-minded legislators, said the proposition would lead to reduction in the cost of governance. So we'll be looking at that issue, how well this can actually help Nigeria's journey in its democratic life. We'll also be looking at other very interesting talking points, which has to do with other issues of national interest. Like we've got the Labour Party also speaking this evening, where they say the Middle Belt movement is technically gagging Peter Obi. That's what the Board of Trustees of the Labour Party has expressed concern over an alleged gag order on its candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Peter Obi. In a statement they issued on Monday and made available to newsmen in Lokoja by the Kogi State Publicity Secretary of the party, Emmanuel Idakwo, stated that the party was concerned by the recent imposition of a gag order on Obi. Idakwo said it was out of place to prevent Obi from commenting on the election, which was widely regarded as fraudulent with irregularities. He said the former governor of Anambra State needed to put future elections in the country on the right pedestal. So we'll be looking at what the Labour Party is trying to do with that very comment. Also, the women are not left out in today's discourse, as we'll be looking at the call. The House of Representatives on Tuesday urged the federal government to make adequate budgetary provisions for the training and grooming of women in politics. The resolution of the House came against the backdrop of the adoption of a motion moved by the lawmakers representing Port Harcourt to federal constituency in Rivers State, talking about Mrs. Blessing Amadi, who led this initiative. The House subsequently urged the Ministry of Women Affairs to designate a department with adequate budgetary provision to help groom, train, and support women in politics and encourage the inclusion of the role of women in politics leadership in secondary school curriculum. So that's, I think, a noble way to move. So this is all we'll be talking about, and other very interesting talking points, not forgetting the national minimum wage will be also up for discourse. Hopefully my guest will be joining me live in the studio. He's no other person but Emmanuel Ozoemena, who is a policy analyst and a consultant. He'll be joining us in the live studio to help us look at these and other talking points as we look at the big issues on the desk. Stay with us.
For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions, Big Talk got you covered. From policy debates to geopolitical insights, from thought-provoking discussions to actionable insight.
What is the real responsibility of government?
Big Talk delves deep into the heart of the matter. Join us weekdays on global televisions from 6:30 p.m. for a reverting journey into the heart of politics, where we dissect issues shaping our society.
With every government and introduction of new policies, businesses of all kinds and sizes seize the opportunity to evolve and redefine themselves. Business Point on Global Television is where we follow the money and put the facts and figures right in front of you. Watch Business Point every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. as Kikelamo Okeri tracks all the latest developments across critical sectors. Business Point. This is business.
In an ever-busy world, the increasing challenge of keeping track of health matters can be extremely demanding. Follow the latest health tips and trends on Health Guide on Global Television on Tuesday at 3 p.m. Health Guide on Global Television. Put your health first.
Are you a food lover? Do you care about your health and nutrition? Are you interested in exploring the diverse culinary traditions from around the world? Then look no further. Introducing Lunch Global on Global Television, a show that takes you on a delicious journey through the world of food, nutrition, and diet. So, whether you're a seasoned foodie, a health enthusiast, or simply curious about the world of food, Lunch Global has something for everyone. Tune in Mondays to Fridays and let your taste bud take you on a journey of flavor, culture, and discovery on Lunch Global. Bon appetit!
Time check. It's midday. Then it's Midday Discourse. Midday Discourse is a program that covers trending local and international news, current issues, and human-related topics. Join Samuel Odi weekdays 1 p.m. on Global Television. The discussion starts here.
It's time for sports' biggest moments on Global Television. The headlines, scores, breaking news, and commentaries on sporty events. Talking with the biggest players, strikers, and about the slam dunks and goals, stunning saves, near misses, and upsets. Let's talk about the greatest home runs, comebacks, knockdowns, and victories. Talk sports with the king of sports, Anthony Momodu. Weekdays, 10 a.m. Don't miss out.
Is the desk on Global Television?
Nigeria. Come join Anthony Momodu on television's most compelling and facts-finding talk live show.
We are the Palestinians, we are the Canaanites, because
that this country gets it right.
who are these bandits?
It's the Dex on Global Television, where we analyze and dissect storming issues and commentaries in the world's biggest black nation, Nigeria.
Who is being held accountable for this money?
The eyes have it.
We stay and decide policies and reforms on the Dex. Tune in Mondays to Fridays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Global Television. Let's stay on the Dex. For an insightful idea that takes the center stage and the conversation that gets beyond the headlines, to explore the lasting impact of political decisions.
All right, welcome back from that break here, watching The Desk on Global Television. Time for us to press the discuss button, and I have in the live studios Mr. Emmanuel Ozoemena, who is a policy consultant and analyst, to help us look at the top stories we'll be looking at on today's edition of the program, The Desk. Let's begin from the National Assembly, where a bill seeking to a single term of 6 years for president and state governors was brought up on Monday by 35 members of the House of Representatives. The bill also canvasses the rotation of the presidency among the 6 geopolitical zones of the country. The 35 legislators, under the auspices of the reform-minded legislators, said the proposition would lead to reduction in cost of governance. Let's look at this issue because they addressed a conference at the National Assembly complex Monday. And Ikenga Ugo chairing added that the move would unite the country and ensure seamless transition of unprecedented development for the country, especially we're looking at 25 years of Nigeria's democracy. June 12th tomorrow is going to mark an epic day. Let's look at, in terms of policy, would you say this is coming at the right time? Is this something we should all embrace? Single term, 6 years, single term, then rotation of the presidency among the 6 geopolitical zones. According to them, it's going to cut cost of governance and also unite the nation, which is what we're all angling for.
Yeah, my first reaction would be there's nothing innovative about it. It's an old wine in a new wineskin. Ask me how and why. First, for anyone who was around during Abacha between 1994 and 1996 had organized a National Constitutional Conference, which recommended, in fact, at the time General Abacha, the former head of state, died, there was a proposed constitution that was in place, a draft constitution of General Abacha. That's what it's referred to. That draft constitution came from the report of the National Conference that was held between 1994 to 1996. When General Salami Abubakar came, in power in 1998, that was the draft constitution of General Sani Abacha, was what was used for political discussion. I remember having worked for a consulting firm, that circulated that paper. It was in newspaper. They printed it. I remember I used to have a copy. Hold on. I used to have a copy of that document. I gave it to a friend who never, returned it. But the advert were in the newspapers. The advert, and that was what you call 6 geopolitical zone, was the idea was a product of that national conference. So it's nothing. It's
nothing new. I agree. It's nothing new. But is it what we need right now?
Back in 2013, under former President Goodluck Jonathan, this very bill came to the National Assembly on single term of 6 years. So, in fact, the entire thing, it's like I said, old wine in a new wineskin. So I was thinking there's something innovative, something new.
But the question is,
fresh ideas.
The question is,
no fresh idea
do you think it's going to be passed and accepted?
The problem with this is the number.
Number in terms of
a house of over 360 something members, and you're having only 35 proposing this. They are a minority. That's the first problem.
Okay.
You already have it. I thought
But the policy itself, is it something that would make us a better country, a better people? That's the angle I want us to look at it from, especially as we're looking at democracy.
The idea of that it will cost the cost of governance.
Yes.
What I thought they should have proposed is to say, look, let's have a single legislator instead of bicameral.
Okay.
Yeah, we could have Senate or we could have a House of Representatives. Even though the problem you're going to have is in most societies where you have a federal constitution. I mean, I read through I read the report in the Punch. First is that if you have a federal system of government, while you have bicameral, it's in the Senate you have what they call equality of states. In the House of Representatives, you have representation by population. That's the way the delimitation of the constituencies are done.
All right, let's go for a very quick break. When we return from this quick break, we'll continue the discourse as we look at the proposal by the House of Representatives. Stay with us. Welcome back again from that break. You're watching The Desk on Global Television. I have asked my guest this evening, a policy consultant and analyst in the person of Emmanuel Ozoemena, who is looking at the recent proposal by the House of Representatives, 35 members. Yeah, you were saying we were trying to analyze the importance. Let's look at the importance, cost of governance. Is it truly going to cut cost of governance? Is it truly going to unite the nation? Because it gives its geopolitical zone the opportunity to have a president that's going to lead the country.
Like I said, the real thing is that this is an old wine in a new wineskin. Invariably, if you look at that Proverbs, it means there's going to be a burst in terms of sustainability. I don't think it's sustainable. That's number one. Two, looking at the cost of governance is a debate that is ongoing. I think the real cost of governance should rather come in day-to-day decisions by whoever is in power. I have said repeatedly, in China is 1.4 billion people, and they have 24 ministers, cabinet ministers. In the US, I think it's about 16 cabinet ministers. So, but here you have 50-something. That's huge. Do we really need to have that number of ministry? Quite a lot of them are.
Is it in the quest of trying to satisfy political?
What the Constitution simply says is that every state should have. So if you have 36 states, 36 ministers, that's the constitutional requirement. So anything below that, I mean, it's actually, for me, it's overshooting the number.
Well, shouldn't this suggest that regional governance technically would do us more good?
If you talk about regional governance, it simply means you are going to collapse the states.
Yes.
That's number one. So already you have 6 geopolitical zones, you collapse it. But the challenge you're going to have at the moment would be, where are you going to situate the capital? Take, for instance, you come into the North Central. Is capital going to be in Makurdi? Is it going to be in Minna? Is it going to be in Nasarawa or in Kefi? Lafia? Is it going to be in Jos?
The resources and economic power to decide.
So that would be the first challenge. The second challenge is, in a multi-ethnic society all over the world, what you have done, what you have seen survive most of the times is states. States, in that sense, it's where you adopt federalism. The idea of federalism is to ensure some level of equity, to ensure some level of even participation and development. But the challenge with the Nigerian practice of federalism is that you have the central having overriding power. Take, for instance, in the United States, no governors don't go to Washington with their begging plates to ask for funding. Rather, the states are the ones that give money to the federal government. So in that case, the activities are at the sub-regional, because that's where the people are, that's where the citizens are. You have just a few people. I mean, the size of Washington is a small place, even in terms of the geography and in terms of the population. That's Washington District of Columbia. That is the capital where the White House is. So, but you have an Abuja, for instance, that has over 8,000 square miles. For me, it's huge. That's not a capital city. A capital city, in my sense, should be what you have in Central District. I mean, that's enough to make up a capital city. And so the problem of Nigeria is that when Abuja was being created, I think somebody somewhere was thinking about creating another state. But that's not what a capital city should be. Take, for instance, Lagos is just a little bit over 325 square miles. So the major problem we have, it's perhaps we need to go back to the drawing board and say, how do we design a country that works?
You made a statement that the 35 lawmakers were not smart in terms of the way they presented this bill because the others were not going to support it. But if other 200 plus lawmakers do not support this, doesn't that go to show us that they do not truly have the interest of the country at heart? Because if this single term, is going to help reduce costs and also technically bring unity, because it gives everybody the opportunity to produce a president, wouldn't that be a better way for the country to go, rather than this that pitches each region against each other?
Okay. Let's look at it. What you call term limit. Are you aware that in the United States, before 1951, there was no term limit in the U.S. presidency? You can run as many times as possible. The idea of term limit, was just the U.S. Congress simply said, okay, let's limit it to 2 terms where the president will be able to concentrate. A 1-tenure presidency anywhere in the world had never solved any problem. Because when you are elected a president or a governor, the first 2 years would be learning curve. You're trying to sit in to even understand how the system works. And the next 1 year, the 3rd year, you're sitting down to work. And then the other year is an election year. So, but if you have a second tenure, you find out most presidents and most governors have a higher performance rate in their second tenure. And they have a better handle of managing the process. We can look at the evidence from Chief Olusegun Obasanjo between 1999 and 2007. During his second tenure, the level of achievement were higher than the first tenure. The first tenure for Chief Obasanjo, if you do a critical analysis of his administration, was purely learning curve. And more so, we're coming from Nigeria being a pariah state, so there was need to have integrated Nigeria back to the global community. Secondly, there was also need to lay the building blocks for reforms. For me, single tenure of 6 years, even a single tenure of 20 years, will never solve the problem of governance. For me, the problem is not second tenure. It's not a big issue.
So you think this dead on arrival?
It's a distraction, if you ask me. Pure, big, huge distractions.
All right, let's move on to the next talking point, taking us to what the Labour Party is accusing of the Middle Belt movement. The Board of Trustees of the Labour Party has expressed concern over the alleged gag order on its candidate in the 2023 presidential election, Peter Obi. In a statement issued on Monday and made available to newsmen in Lokoja, the publicity secretary, Emmanuel Edakwo, stated that the party was concerned by the recent imposition of a gag order on Obi. Edakwo said it was out of place to prevent Obi from commenting on the election, which was widely regarded as fraudulent and filled with irregularities. As you said, the former governor of Anambra State needed to put future elections in the country on the right pedestal. Idaku said that the European Union report on the presidential election stands as a comprehensive analysis and critique, serving as a paradigm for electoral processes worldwide. Let's look at, in terms of the European report on the elections, and also the fact that Labour Party is also accusing the Middle Belt movement of trying to gag Peter Obi from speaking. Do you think the Labour Party is overblowing the whole issue?
The point is that the Middle Belt movement, it's a socio-cultural organization, and a socio-cultural organization and a political party, even though they are all within the realms of
pressure groups. But political party is more of aggregation of ideologies and political ideas of a people who believe, who share ideology, come together to form a party to run for elections. Why the Middle Belt socio-cultural group movement, they are not a political party, but they also have a right. They are stakeholders in the system, so they have a right to express their opinion. But again, they can't gag Peter Obi. Peter Obi is a politician, and any politician anywhere in the world, has a platform to speak. Say, for instance, the U.S. election happened in 2020. You had Donald Trump running against the current president, Joe Biden. Donald Trump, in his characteristic manner, is still insisting that the election of 2020 was fraudulent. And nobody has asked him to stop speaking. Even though there were several suits in court over that election. Finally, the members of the Republican parties who in states where they went to court, I think over 10 or 12 states, they lost the cases up to the Supreme Court. But Donald Trump, each time he speaks, he talks of that the election was not free and fair. And nobody has asked him, President Trump, stop speaking. Because politics is about speaking, and it's about whatever you think catches your interest, you talk about it. So the Middle Belt movements are simply expressing their opinion. It's also within their rights, because everyone is a stakeholder, whether you're a political party or a socio-cultural group. But the point is that I don't think anybody anywhere can ask Peter Obi to stop speaking. Remember, first and foremost, he's a politician. But would this affect the Labour Party's drive towards getting more voters? Because if they're already having rift with the Middle Belt movement, which obviously represents the people of the Middle Belt to an extent, when it comes
is it Middle Belt Forum or Middle Belt movement?
The Middle Belt.
Yeah, hold on. What happens is this. It's like when you hear Ohaneze Youth.
Ohaneze Ndibo.
No, Ohaneze Youth. Okay. There's Ohaneze
Ndibo
as a group. That is what they call, you could say, the APES political, cultural group of Igbo people. And you now have Ohaneze Youth Movement or Ohaneze Youth. Those things are simply people coming together to canvass for opinion. In fact, I'm hearing of a Middle Belt movement for the first time. So I don't think they represent the aggregation of the Middle Belt people.
But for Labour Party to find them...
No, I think it sounds to me more of like an emergency socio-cultural group. They are not a Middle Belt Forum, because I know Middle Belt Forum, and I know they are, from the media engagement of their leaders, you know who they are. So I don't think they are a serious group to be taken serious, if you ask me.
But for they are not. To take them that serious probably is giving them more credibility.
No, it's their right of a reply. But if I work for Labour Party, if I'm their spokesperson, I wouldn't even bother to give them that attention. and right of reply, because for me they look like an unknown group.
All right, let's move on to the next talking point. Let's talk about the women in politics. Looking at women in politics, the House of Representatives on Tuesday urged the federal government to make adequate budgetary provision for the training and grooming of women in politics. The resolution of the House came against the backdrop of the adoption of the motion moved by the lawmaker representing Port Harcourt 2 Federal Constituency, Rivers State, Mrs. Blessing Amadi. The House subsequently urged the Ministry of Women Affairs to designate a department with adequate budgetary provision to help groom, train, and support women in politics and encourage political leadership in secondary schools. Is this the best move to help women in politics?
Yeah, if you ask me, this is also another distraction. Another distraction in the sense that what I think should have happened, it's perhaps ask the Ministry of Education, because if you're talking about people in school, that falls within the purview of the Ministry of Education. To perhaps scale up teaching of civics, because it's only through teaching of civics in school that people will be able to, young people will be able to learn more about politics and how to play politics and develop interest in politics. It essentially doesn't, I don't think it falls within the purview of Ministry of Women Affairs. They already have their programs sorted out. They already have a lot of interventions. You already have a lot of women NGOs across the country. In fact, I'm sure if my data is correct, you have over 60,000 NGOs in Nigeria at the moment doing all kinds of things, including mainstreaming gender in politics. And if you have that, what should happen should be these non-state actors, the civic organizations, that should take that lead of ensuring that women participation is scaled up. Again, except where I thought what the House of Reps should have been talking about should be, look, we need to perhaps take another look at the Constitution. As we're doing constitutional amendment, perhaps create what you call special seats. That's what they have done in some countries like Rwanda, countries like Kenya, countries like South Africa, where you have specialized seats reserved for women constituency. Those seats can only be contested by women, just to ensure you have that gender representation, within the National Assembly. And for me, that's a more pragmatic way of ensuring that you mainstream women participation in politics, but not simply to give more funding to training of women. There are already NGOs at the moment doing that. If we aggregate the entire funding coming from donor agencies, from UN Women, from the United States Department for International Development, from the UK, FCDO, and all that, there are no funding on that. But the key thing that should happen is to begin to look at creating special seats, reserved seat for women.
Because I was going to ask you, looking at 25 years of democracy in Nigeria, how will you place women in politics in the country?
Women representation has been what we had in 1999 to date. I think the better time for women was in 2011 or thereabout elections, where they had more women representation. But between 2019 and 2023, the thing has dipped. You have fewer number of women in National Assembly. For instance, in Anambra, we had 3 women. We had 2 women representing Anambra between 2019 to 2003. But today, there's no woman representing Anambra in the Senate. So most women who were in the Senate couldn't come back as we speak. So, but if we have a special seat designated, we could say, let's designate 15% of the seat in Senate for women, and say about 45% or thereabout, or 30% special seat for women in House of Representatives, and replicate that across the states. For me, that's a more better way of achieving gender representation in National Assembly.
Okay, but in terms of, apart from National Assembly, let's look at in terms of governors and other, we are yet to see one state in Nigeria where a governor is a woman. We've had deputy governors as women, but why is it impossible at the subnational level to get women at the front seats and see how well they can do?
I think 2-3 factors might be responsible. The first factor is a factor of, first, the structure of elections in Nigeria. Elections in Nigeria are like a civil war. And when you are going for civil wars, most of the times, you know, a certain professor of political science described it. He says election or politics is war by other means. And when the heat of election comes, most women are likely going to fall by the wayside. Then the second is the structure of the political parties. Most leadership of the political parties are by men. And in that case, when decisions are to be made or delegates are voting, the larger chunk of the delegates, including women delegates, are likely going to vote for a man than a fellow woman. So most women actually get, you could say, fall by the wayside in terms of realizing their aspiration. So the only way we would be able to address that imbalance in representation and participation is by looking at fundamental review of our laws. I have proposed special seat for women. We could agree on how many percentage we have reserved seat for women. It's only women who can run for those seats. Then for having governors, you know, governorship, someone says when we elect 36 governors each time there's an election in Nigeria, election of governors, we have just elected 36 emperors. So perhaps we could find a way of adding some empresses in these numbers, so we could have gender balance. But by and large, what I should ask the women to do is to keep pushing. They should keep pushing. We almost had one in Kwara sometime, I think in 2011, when Senator Saraki ran, you know, but she couldn't make it. We almost had one in Adamawa, but it slipped. And but they should keep pushing, keep pushing. Perhaps one of these days they might be able to be lucky.
And has Better Edu, and has she done the women folks any good?
No, Better Edu. Well, we also have men who have also committed or alleged infractions.
Because why I asked that question? For her own infraction, she was suspended and never brought back. We also had the Minister of Interior who was also indicted in that same issue, but was never punished technically. Even the so it just looks like because she was female, it was easy for them to get her out of the way.
No, I'm not sure. Even for Better Edu, she's simply suspended. I'm not sure. Is the matter closed? Not that I'm aware. She's simply suspended. And perhaps they are waiting the investigation of the EFCC and all that. But I think the entire thing shouldn't be, I'm not sure there's a gender element to that incident.
All right, let's move on for the want of time. A quick one, Katsina attack. We've got President Bola Tinubu strongly condemning the recent killings of citizens in Dutsinma and Kankara local government areas in Katsina State. Report that the State Police Command in a statement on Monday confirmed the killing of about 20 persons, including 4 police officers and 2 operatives of the state-owned Community Watch Corps by suspected bandits. The statement issued by the Public Relations Officer of the Command, ASP Abubakar Sadiq Aliyu, said the attacks occurred on Sunday at the Gidan Tofa and Dan Nakwabo villages in Kankara local government area of the state. In response, the president has promised that his administration will do more to secure citizens and completely degrade terrorists and other hangbangers of death. The issue of insecurity in the country, do you think the security architecture is doing enough? Because at some time it looks like the insecurity has mellowed down and suddenly we begin to see the rise again.
I think the key challenge, if you ask me, is Nigeria is emerging perhaps into new you could say new settings, new challenges, and new moments. So what it means is that for the security architecture, they should keep on reviewing their processes. They should keep on enhancing their engagement. They should keep on ensuring that they train men and women who are in the field managing, confronting this
and do you think
this crisis
should come as soon as possible? Even though we know some
a few months ago, I tried doing some reflections around security challenges across the world. The US were in Afghanistan for over 20 years, trying to manage the insurgency, trying to manage the crisis, and after 20 years, they left, and I'm not sure they succeeded in their objective of ensuring that Afghan becomes a more stable country. So if they had managed it for 20 years with all they know, I think sometimes perhaps our expectations are, we have a high expectations of these challenges to go perhaps in a jiffy. I think it's managing security challenges most times is a we have to have a long-term plan. There could be short-term plan, what they call low-hanging fruits here and there, but I think ultimately it could take as longer than our expectation. But I think what we need to do is, so long as we are improving our processes, whether it's the men, whether it's the motivation, whether it's the deployment processes, whether it's the tactic, all we need to do is to keep on our eyes on the ball to ensure that we have a saner, safer, and more stable society. Sometimes when I reflect, in fact, when we were reading the story, I was reflecting on Katsina. I remember over 14 years ago, I was in Kankara to do some work, and I can afford to leave Kankara at 10 in the night to go back to Katsina town, where I stayed. It was a safe place, safe community. But this time, I can't afford, I'm not sure it's safer now to be able to drive out of Kankara even at 6 p.m. in the evening. So that's what has happened. We have banditry, we have insurgency, we have all kinds of security challenges. I think also the security, the people managing the security architecture, they are also under pressure, they're overwhelmed. So we also need to understand the type of conditions they work under and keep supporting them. But the point is that there's no easy road to ensuring a more secured society. It's a work in progress, and it's a hard work that we must keep on keeping on.
All right. Let's just wrap it up with a look at June 12, which is tomorrow. For you, how would you look ahead as June 12 tomorrow, looking at Nigeria in the last 25 years? Well,
I think it's all about reflection. In fact, June 12 happened over 30 years ago, so to speak. June 12, 1993. So between June 12, 1993 and May 29th, 1999, we achieved a return to democracy, to civil rule, which has endured in the last 26 years. And here we are today as a fully democratic country where we have had the longest uninterrupted democracy. So what we need to do is to, first of all, thank the Nigerian people, thank everyone who is a stakeholder in Nigeria who has kept on our eyes on the goal. And here we are today, 26 years after, and we keep pushing on. First is that democracy is a work in progress. There's no democracy anywhere that is perfect. You keep doing election, keep learning the lessons, keep, improving on your processes. And one of these days, I'm sure we'll get it better.
What do you think will be on the mind of Ibrahim Babangida at this time, knowing that the June 12th he annoyed is now turned to Nigeria's democracy?
I'm sure
making a hero a villain.
I have listened to former President, military President Ibrahim Babangida several times speak on June 12th. I think on his own part, he's been some sort of a hindsight, reflective, and what is in history is that you take decisions. You get some right, you get some wrong, but life must move on. And I think in his retirement out there in Niger State, he will reflect and say, well, how old was he then? How old is he now? Life is about hindsight, it's about reflection, and it's about, well, I tried my best.
But Nigeria turning to be democracy day, doesn't that automatically tell him the truth?
No, I'm not sure it's an indictment. What is about leadership?
It is an indictment.
Hold on. The thing about leadership, I remember this popular quote that was on for over 30 years ago. That quote was on that history will not forgive us for not taking a decision, but history will be kind to us even when we take a wrong decision.
I think that quote is being
so incidentally, if I recall very well, I think it was President Babangida who made it. I remember clearly. That was around 1986 or thereabouts.
I'm not going to take that. We're not going to take it that serious.
No, we should. No. Hold on. You know what I have done?
To favor or to question whatever decision he has taken.
Wait a minute. I'm a lover of biography.
Okay.
When you read biography of leaders,
we've got just 2 minutes.
Yeah. One of the things you do is that you learn from the things they got right, the mistakes they made, and then you can plan better for the future. So I think our leaders should give us the benefit of having their memoirs, because it would help us in taking future decisions.
All right, we hope the past leaders, but I'm not so sure if our present president has taken some of what the ex-president Muhammadu Buhari, his decisions he has made and all that. Because if he did, then there are some policies which we're experiencing now that maybe would have not come to the fore. But that's how we're going to call it a wrap on today's edition of the program, The Desk on Global Television. I must say a big thank you to Emmanuel Ozoimena, who came in within a very short notice and did a yeoman's job of helping us do analysis of all the talking points as we look forward to June 12th, which is Democracy Day right here in Africa's biggest black nation, Nigeria. And hopefully I will dwell on this more tomorrow. My name is Anthony Momodu saying thank you for joining me on The Desk.